Welcome back to another FPL video. This will be the best free hit team for Gameweek 13 and the first free hit video since Gameweek 5. On screen you can see the fixtures: Manchester City versus Liverpool, Aston Villa versus Spurs, and also Chelsea versus Newcastle. Some very difficult games to predict, and it's also going to be a difficult game week to navigate because a lot of the best assets have difficult fixtures. So this free hit team video will help you build the free hit, but also with free transfers. If you're looking for 1 week punts, look no further than this video. Smash the like button if you enjoy it, and also if this gets to over 200 likes, then there'll be a final team selection video with some updated transfer plans building upon what I discussed in the team selection video from last week. But without further ado, let's jump straight into this video. The first player covered in this video is Sam Johnston, and there are some decent goalkeepers here and there, not too many though. So the others I would consider are Burn Leno at home to Wolves. You've also got Ramsdale away to Brentford, and he kept a clean sheet earlier this season in the Carabao Cup, and Arsenal got the victory. It was a rotated side. Ramsdale made some top saves, and David Raya is ineligible to play against his parent club. He's on loan from Brentford, and as a result he can't play against them. So Ramsdale could be a shout, but I would go for Johnston above all of them against Luton Town. It could be quite a close game, and I think Crystal Palace have one of the best chances of securing a clean sheet. And the second goalkeeper is going to be Areola, the very popular option in goal, and you can even start him. Some algorithms like FPL.team do favour Areola over Johnston this week. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, but I'd personally go for Johnston, have Areola on the bench, and usually with free hit teams you want to invest all of your money in the starting 11 and a minimal amount on your bench. But because we're going to go about some key assets, some really expensive ones in this team, that frees up a lot of funds. So the bench might look stronger than you would like. You can always downgrade them if you're not too comfortable with that. And either way, I would recommend one decent option on your bench, even on a free hit, just in case, especially with all the injury problems and doubts we're getting during the international break. I'll be covering some of them as we go along with the likes of Bowen, Matoma and Erling Haaland. But these are the two goalkeepers, Johnston and Areola, and I'd personally start Johnston, as we'll get onto later on using FPL.team. I have gone for one Arsenal defender, and that is Saliba. I think he's by far the best Arsenal asset in the defensive line. You've also got David Raya in goal, but of course, as we talked about, he is ineligible. Ramsdale's another shout for the free hit. Gabriel's always a good option. Zinchenko, when he starts, has the bonus points potential. Ben White is usually the highest scoring Arsenal defender, but also the most expensive. So I think Saliba is kind of the sweet spot. He hits the sweet spot, and I think he is the best for bonus points. He's also one of the best for FPL points. He's also the most nailed on. So I think Saliba is the best way to cover Arsenal defensively, and I have gone for him in this team. I don't think Brentford is an easy fixture, and Mbumo, Wissa and other key assets could cause some problems there for Arsenal. But as I said earlier, Arsenal kept a clean sheet with a rotated side at Brentford, whilst Brentford fielded their strongest 11. And if something similar happens here, you would expect Arsenal to win by 1 or 2 goals and possibly keep a clean sheet. So I think Saliba is a safe bet in the heart of the defence. I've also gone here for a pretty expensive defender, and that's going to be Kieran Trippier against Chelsea, which you might not be a big fan of, to be quite honest, because Chelsea have been good in the big games. Newcastle also have a lot of defensive injuries and injuries in general. They've got up to 9 players missing, 1 through suspension in Tonali and the rest through injury. There's a lot of doubts as well, but Trippier is still a good option with the bonus points, the assist potential, and I still think Newcastle can keep a clean sheet at St James's Park. And if they sit back a little bit deeper, deploy a low block, I think that could actually play into their hands and give them a really good chance of securing all 3 points against Chelsea, because Chelsea just can't really do it against teams that sit back and defend. Now, the third defender is going to be a very popular option this week, and that is Joachim Andersen, and I'm going for that double up in Crystal Palace defensively. It's up to you if you want to start both of them, Johnston and Andersen, or maybe you want to go for Areola instead in goal, or bench Andersen. It's completely up to you. You can also go for Gay, Mitchell. There's not a huge difference, but I think Joachim Andersen is the best for goal threat and also bonus points potential. And on a free hit, especially this week, you will have the funds, I think, to go for Andersen instead of the others, and I would recommend that if possible, but it's not a big deal. To be quite honest with you, any Crystal Palace defender should do just fine, but I think Andersen is slightly and marginally the best option there. Now, the fourth and fifth defenders aren't going to be anything special, but One defender that's very popular in the last few videos and streams, people keep asking about him, is Vladimir Coufal, and that's two West Ham defenders or defensive coverage with Coufal and Areola, and you could arguably start one, two, or neither of them, to be quite honest with you, but it does provide you a bit of squad depth, and Coufal has been decent in terms of assists for this season so far, despite an expected assist figure of around 1, so there is an overperformance there, but Coufal is the best West Ham defender, and if you're asking me to start someone between Areola and Coufal, I'd rather start Coufal, but there's not a huge difference between the two of them, and the fifth defender is Lascelles, but he'll be sitting on the bench, as we'll discuss later on in this video. It's between the other four defenders for a starting spot in this free hit team, and I want to see your thoughts, of course, in the comment section down below. Would you go for Areola or Coufal? Maybe both. Are you favouring Crystal Palace or West Ham defensively this week? There's not many defences to really back, but I think Arsenal, Newcastle and Crystal Palace are three of the very best in Game Week 13. There's no denying that Saka has been nowhere near his best since coming back from injury, but against Sevilla, he showed what he's capable of with a terrific performance. In the Premier League, not so much. I think the performances have been quite underwhelming. He looked decent against Burnley, got the assist, and even when he doesn't play well and with poor underlying numbers, he's still able to churn out FPL points with a goal contribution one way or another, and all of Trossard's goals this season have been assisted by Bukayo Saka, so I'd still recommend him, and against Brentford, he has a decent chance of a return. The second midfielder could sit on your bench. You could even start him. It's completely up to you. And that's Hwang Hee-chan. He's one of the best budget midfielders this week. Adingra's another one. You've also got Cole Palmer against Newcastle. But I would favour Hwang Hee-chan over the others. And Pedro Neto could be back very soon. And that will only boost Hwang Hee-chan's chances of getting some goal contributions, especially goals, because he is their main source of goal threat. He's not really going to provide too much creativity, but the underlying numbers aren't too bad there either. So I think Hwang Hee-chan is decent. Now, the third midfielder is going to be very popular, especially over the next 3 game weeks, and that is Eze. I'm not expecting Palace to batter Luton Town, as I said earlier, but if they win 1 or 2-0, Eze will likely be very heavily involved. He's on penalties, he takes set pieces, and I also think not just for Game Week 13, but also for 14 and 15, he is a fantastic option. If you have Gordon, maybe even Palmer, you could make a temporary switch to Eze and then swap back to one of those other budget midfielders. You could definitely do something like that and maybe switch between the budget midfielders over the next few game weeks depending on fixtures, and I think Eze over the next 3 has a very high ceiling, so I would recommend him, or at least consider him for Game Week 13. But if you are looking for a 1 week punt, I think Eze is probably the best in the midfield, and he's also very, very accessible and cheap. Now, the fourth midfielder is an injury doubt, and that is Jarrod Bowen, and the latest update that we have is that the injury isn't too serious, but he's going to miss out the second game for England in the international break. Let's wait and see for more updates by David Moyes later this week to determine whether he's still a doubt for Game Week 13, but I think he will be available and he's not going to be a big issue. Now, if he turns out to be out for Game Week 13, then you could go to Bruno Fernandes instead, and if you can't find the funds, you can always downgrade Hwang Hee-chan to a budget midfielder, someone around 4.5 million. You can also downgrade Coufal to Taylor. There's a few things you can do in order to get the funds necessary, but that's something you could consider if Bowen is still out. I don't think that'll be the case, so it shouldn't be something to worry about. The final midfielder is someone a lot of people are looking to sell this week, and I said in my transfer tips that I wouldn't do so, and that's Heung-min Son. For me, he's one of the very best captaincy options this week, alongside Jarrod Bowen if he's fit, and Son has a good record against Aston Villa. That high line could really suit him, and I'm really expecting him to do very well. He had a bit of an injury scare during the international break, but he was able to finish the match, and I think he's going to be completely fine and ready against Aston Villa. He is Spurs' best chance of getting any sort of result against the villains, and despite no James Maddison leading to a lack of creativity, and Son could sometimes seem anonymous as he did against Wolves, I still think there's going to be the odd mega haul, and Aston Villa is certainly one of those games where I could see Heung-min Son getting double digits in terms of points. Afterwards, the fixtures are quite poor, especially Manchester City in Game Week 14, but to be honest, Son has a good record against them as well, so you could make a case of keeping Son. The only kind of case that I'd make for selling him is if you're going to go to Salah in Game Week 14, but don't make that move this week in my opinion, especially for a -4 hit, and this midfield 5 looks exceptional for Game Week 13. This will be the first time I'm going for a front three in any of these best free hit team or wildcard videos this season. Solanke is going to be in against Sheffield United after a 12-pointer against Newcastle. That brace was very impressive and no one expected Newcastle to drop points there. But they had a lot of injuries, of course, a lot of problems, but it doesn't matter. Solanke did what he had to and he is a decent option around his price and below. This will be one of the few times he will feature in any free hit team video, but you have to make an exception here. You've got to look at the form, the fixture, and I think Solanke has the best of both worlds here in Game Week 13. So I would highly recommend him if you are looking for a striker as a 1 week punt. In terms of a long-term purchase, I still prefer the likes of Alvarez, Darwin Nunez, but Solanke is not a bad option by any stretch of the imagination, and he's kind of nearing the top 5 at this moment in time. And with Isak coming back from injury after the international break, if you are looking for a longer-term play, that could be the one, especially with Callum Wilson potentially being out for the next 6 weeks or so. And of course, the other injury doubts that we have include the likes of Erling Haaland, who I'll talk about very soon, and Mitoma, and it looks like Mitoma will miss Game Week 13 against Nottingham Forest, so bear that in mind. There's a lot of injury problems to keep on top of, and on this channel with the videos and deadline stream you will keep updated with every single injury and thing you need to know heading into Game Week 13. Now the second forward is going to be Ollie Watkins. I would recommend one Aston Villa attacker against Tottenham, who have the likes of Eric Dyer at the back, no Mickey van der Ven, Romero still suspended, Udogie is an injury doubt despite him serving a suspension in the last game, and you've also got no James Maddison on top of more injury problems there for Spurs like Solomon and Richarlison. I think Watkins is a good option here. He's never blanked at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. He's produced a return in all 3 of his visits, and I think he could make it 4 out of 4 here, especially with the form he's showing this season. So Ollie Watkins would be my preference, but Diaby is another decent shout. Douglas Luiz on penalties isn't a bad one either, but Watkins is definitely the most appealing. And the final forward is Erling Haaland, and according to Fabrizio Romano, and it should come as no surprise here, he is expected to be available against Liverpool. He missed out for Norway. He had a bit of an ankle problem, but he should be completely fine for Game Week 13. That is a huge game against Liverpool. There's no way he's going to miss that, and he also features in this best free hit team, and he's also a very strong contender for the captaincy, as he tends to be for any fixture. This is the free hit squad. You can play a number of different formations: 3-4-3, 3-5-2, 4-4-2, 4-3-3. No matter what you pick, this free hit squad will give you a lot of versatility and flexibility. But if you are uncomfortable with having some really good options like Hwang Hee-chan on your bench, you can always downgrade them and use those extra funds to then upgrade Bowen to Fernandes, especially if Bowen turns out to be unavailable for Game Week 13. Let's now head over to FPL.team, check out the expected points, the captaincy, and the starting 11 before wrapping up this video. Between the sticks, I would opt for Johnston, but Areola is not a bad option against Burnley this week, and according to the algorithms, as I alluded to earlier, Areola is slightly favoured, so take that with a pinch of salt. The back three would be Saliba, Joachim Andersen and Kieran Trippier. The midfield four would be Son, Saka, Eze and Bowen, and the front three would be Solanke, Haaland and Ollie Watkins. The bench is also very solid with Areola, Soufal, Hwang Hee-chan and Lascelles. You could arguably put Hwang Hee-chan first on the bench or even into your starting 11 over Jarrod Bowen. I've got 0.8 million in the bank, so as I said earlier, if Bowen is out, you could upgrade him to Bruno Fernandes, and if you don't have the funds personally to make that move, you can always downgrade Hwang Hee-chan, Soufal, or even Areola. It depends on what you're looking to do, but I think this 50-man squad should do the trick. And in terms of the captaincy, I think there are 3 strong contenders: Haaland, Son and Bowen if he's fit. I wouldn't go for Saka personally against Brentford away. It's not a bad fixture, but it's also not a great one, and I think it could be quite a low scoring game for Arsenal, maybe 1 or 2 goals there for the Gunners, so I wouldn't really back Saka for the captaincy. As for Solanke, he could be a nice differential shout. Even Ollie Watkins against the depleted Tottenham side. Some of you may favour Eze, but I would stick to Haaland, Son or Bowen, and I would rank them in that order, especially with the injury updates we've been provided over the last couple of days. And that's pretty much it. I wouldn't captain the defender, especially this week, unless you want to go for something bold like Anderson. I remember a recent stream, someone actually talked about captaining Lindelof. I said no, and he ended up scoring 15 points against Luton Town. So you just never know, really, with FPL and the captaincy. But thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it or found it useful, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. Let's try to get this video to over 200 likes, and let's keep on pushing towards 22,000 subscribers and beyond. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and check all the links in the description below for the Patreon, Championships Discord server, and the FPL League. All of that is there. I wish you all the best of luck for Game Week 13 and the rest of the season, and I'll see you next time.